are going to continue talking about the mound builders today. I have printed out your guided notes. Okay, so everybody should have a copy of this paper with a map on the front. Everybody got one? Alright, so if you look on this paper, this is going to have all the different groups that we're going to be talking about. So what group are we talking about right now? Southeast. So there's no map key on our paper. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create our own map key, and we are going to color in each section as we get to it. Okay? So we'll do that in a few minutes. While we are reading today and while we are answering our questions, we're going to be thinking about our chapter 1 framing question, which is what are some of the key characteristics of the people of the Southeast? Yeah, good. Okay, so they are close to the Gulf of Mexico. If you look at the map, we're right down here, right, by the Gulf of Mexico. And what was that river that runs all the way through? Mississippi River. So the people of the Southeast came all the way over to where we are located today, all the way over to the Atlantic Ocean down into Florida. What other key geographical features were some of them by? Jensen?
Mountains, also say the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, the Atlantic Ocean. What mountain range was that we said the Cherokee were by?
Mountains.
The Appalachian Mountains. Good. What other characteristics can you remember from yesterday? What were some of the things that these people did? They built mounds. And what did they use the mounds for, Zayden?
To like bury some of their like relatives.
Burial sites. Good. What else, Eli? Religious practices. Good. And another thing, because they were related, or not related, but relatively close to the Mississippi River, they were what?
They had fertile soil.
They have fertile soil, which made them farmers. All right. What were the crops called that we talked about yesterday, Aubrey?
They had squash, beans, and corn, I think.
Corn, beans, and squash. And Eli, what were they called? The Three Sisters. Okay, good. So we've already learned some of these characteristics. We're going to be talking about a few more. And that's going to get us ready for our unit performance task. For our performance task, so we did our slides for the West African Kingdom. This unit, we're going to be going back to a writing. And we're going to be writing about how the indigenous cultures felt that the environment was the most important factor in their culture. Okay, so the environment is those geographical features, right? So nature, think about our birch bark house unit. How did they use nature?
They used tobacco offerings for the spirits, like say whenever Nelka stripped the tree off of its bark.
Yeah, they would use the bark from the tree to build their houses. What else, Braylon? Yeah, so nature was even part of their religious beliefs, right? Because her spiritual connection with the bears. All right, Weston, what else? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be talking about this a little bit today. When we get to that point, we're going to be using evidence from our reading, from our chapters, from our primary sources, and from our activities. So we're going to do one of those activities today, and you can even use that for your unit performance task if you choose. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick recap of what we talked about yesterday, and we are going to answer our questions. Before we get started, let's go ahead and color the section that we are talking about. So we're only coloring what section? Southeast. We're all gonna color it green. Okay, so that way our maps are all the same. I don't have enough colors for everybody, so we're gonna have to share them with our partner, okay? so if you look at my map, I have it colored the southeast section colored green. And at the bottom of our paper, we don't have a lot of room, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna create our own map key. So down at the bottom, beneath the map, I want you to write map key. And we're going to tell what each color stands for. So you can just do a little green square. And our green square is going to represent the southeast. Anybody else need a green crayon? Put your color on the back. Okay, if you're not done, you can just continue working while I talk for a little bit. So we're not going to go back and reread what we read yesterday. We're just going to briefly recap it, and as we go through, we're going to answer our questions. So if you look on the inside, we're going to skip this first page. This is going to come in at the end of the unit. This is our primary source, and we're going to start up here on page 3. And this box up here, this is where we're supposed to jot down our notes for our framing questions. So we already answered some of these. So we said some of the key characteristics of the Southeast people were that they were located where? Located where? Well, they're
Mississippi.
Yeah, located by the Mississippi. Located by what else? The Gulf. Located by what else? The Atlantic. Okay, so located by Mississippi River. In our box right here. The Gulf of Mexico. And if any of us ever go on beach vacations in the summer, that is most likely where you go. If you go to Alabama or Florida to go to the beach, then you're going to the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so Appalachian Mountains. Some are in the Atlantic. Okay. We know that they were mound builders and that they were farmers. Alright, so the people of the Southeast were known as the mound builders. They were located near the Mississippi River Valley. They were farmers. They had trade routes and roads. And what eventually caused the mound builders to break up or die out? Aubrey?
Wait, is it?
Well, think back to our birch bark house unit. What caused them to break up? Yeah, smallpox, right? That we learned about in the birch bark house. So, among other diseases, it wasn't just smallpox, although that one was very severe. And this is going to cause our people of the Southwest to break up into smaller groups. So now it's not just one big thing. What are some of the smaller groups that they broke up into? What were those nations called? Jensen?
Cherokee,
Choctaw.
Let's see, another.
It's okay, those are good.
There's also Chickasaw.
The Chickasaw, Jackson. What else?
Chamachi,
Yeah, the Chitimacha is where we are today, right? Yeah, the Creek, the Seminoles, who were in what state? Florida, like the football team, right? Alright, so we are going to start right here with our first vocabulary word. An act or a series of actions done in the same way in a certain situation, such as a religious ceremony. What is that vocabulary word? Flip open your book, because we know that our vocabulary words are in those boxes. Charlie? A ritual. Good. So our first vocabulary word will be ritual. And some of these mounds that they built were done so that they could do rituals, right?
They have one
Poverty Point. Yeah, at Poverty Point, that is a good example of where we have mounds. And a lot of people go there, not for the mounds, but for fishing. But the mounds are very interesting if you like history. All right, so mounds were used for rituals. They were used for burial of the dead. Number one. Okay. Originally, what were these people called?
mound builders.
Originally, the mound builders built small domed mounds. Later, they built larger, flat-shaped mounds. All right, so first we have our vocabulary word, which is ritual, and then number one, we have the mound builders, and later they would build them into shapes. Does anybody remember what kind of shapes that some of them were? They are flat and round, but what kind of shapes, like animal shapes, do you remember? A snake was one, and it also said one other animal. Anybody remember the other animal? Aaliyah? Birds. So snakes and birds. Alright, number two, the mounds were used mostly for what kind of rituals did we say? Religious rituals and burial of the dead. That would be number two. And number three, we lost information about the mound builders when who showed up?
Columbus.
Well, the Europeans in general, right? Which did
The Europeans right down here, so we better
those Europeans did include Columbus, but it also included many other people because let's see. I can find our map. And here, just really quickly before you go on, which mound do we think this one is? Serpent's mound, right? It looks like a snake. Alright, let's see where our map is. So remember we said that Columbus came originally down here, right below Florida, and he would come back a few times, but settlers would eventually come all over, right? And they would expand further and further west. So some of our native groups were down here where Columbus arrived to, but some of them are way up here by the Ohio River and the Great Lakes and things. Eventually those settlers would make their way all the way over there, yes.
Are down there, they'll probably be the first that catch the disease.
They probably would be the first ones who got affected because that was where the first settlers arrived to. That's right. Okay. So we're gonna keep going with our questions. We're gonna try to do the front and back of this page, and then we're gonna move on to our main activity. All right. So Southeast nations. What's our next vocabulary word? A group of people, organizations, or countries that join together for a common cause. Very.
I skipped the bottom one of number 3. I'm sorry. It's disease.
Diseases, right? The Europeans brought over what? Diseases. Smallpox and other diseases. Thank you for catching that.
I know what it's done.
Alright, you know what the vocabulary word is for?
Confederacy.
Yeah. Confederacy. And we briefly talked about this yesterday. Which group was considered a confederacy? Does anybody remember? The Creek. The Creek Confederacy, that's right. Alright. Then we also talked about our next vocabulary words, those fences with the sharp wooden posts. What are those called? Palisades. Good. Alright, we have a few more questions on the back. We're going to talk about this page right here with our map. Alright, what kind of features did we talk about that affected them? Geographical features, okay, so this is number 4. And you were going to have a test question about this map, and it's going to ask you which geographical feature was most important to the Cherokee natives. What would we say? The Appalachian Mountains, right? The Cherokee are located right here by the Appalachian Mountains. If we said which geographical feature might be most important to the Seminoles, what would we say? The Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. They probably did a lot of what? Fishing, right? So if you're located right close to the Mississippi River where you have fertile soil, you're going to do a lot of farming. If you're located down here by the oceans, you're probably going to do a lot of fishing.
And then the white was after it said that those groups by a lot of sea, they were like, that could have been the Seminoles.
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, you're
They
right.
could have not been fishing, they could have been eating themselves.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Important geographical features that affected the nations of the, where are we at?
Germany.
No, the whole area. What's it called? The Southeast. Good. Included the Appalachian Mountains, the Atlantic Ocean, the Mississippi River, other rivers such as the Ohio River, the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, this one is a little tricky, and this is going to be on our test, and the reason why I say it's tricky is because it's talking about the weather. Okay, so the growing season in the Southeast, which is when it was good for farming, they had a long growing season because the winters were mild. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you that answer, and I'm going to tell you why. So, winters were mild. Whenever I was talking about this with Miss Pam, I said I would get this question wrong because I am always cold. And it said that it was like 34 degrees or something. I'm like, that is not mild, right? That's freezing.
Louisiana's like 50.
But they're saying mild because it's comparative to the whole world, right? So if you live in Canada, that's very warm. Yeah. Well, 32 degrees would probably be warm for people who lived way up north. It's really cold for us because we're not used to that kind of weather. But they say that the winters were mild and the summers were what? Hot. So they had a long growing season because it never really gets below freezing, right? Alright, I want you to open up your books. I want you to go to page 6, I believe. Alright, the Catawba spoke a language. Anybody remember how to say that word? You remember how to say it? Siouan. The Siouan language. And this set them apart from the peoples of the Creek Confederacy. Okay, so each group would have their own way of communicating. Some of them even have like a vocabulary. You know, their own written language. What? Alright, and finally, this is that vocabulary word that we talked about. The Catawba people protected their area by having what around it? Palisades.
They have the spiky fence.
Those spiky fences, right? To keep everybody out.
Also the mountains.
Even pests. Yeah, I mean that would also protect you from animals, right? Because if your fence is big enough, then a bear can't get past it or something like that. So yeah, it's protection from other groups, but also from animals. Okay, very quickly, we're going to watch a short little video about the mound builders, and then we are going to do an activity.
Suggestions are great, but sometimes you just want to tell Grammarly how to help. As you write,
Greetings, I'm your host, Ben Tubb. Welcome to an introduction to the Mound Builders, the first in a four-part series entitled An American Deception. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Brown-skinned people, from very light to the darkest skin, have existed in the Americas continuously for many thousands of years. Writer Jack Ford, in his book, Africans and Native Americans, said many, but not all, Native Americans were brown or dark-colored without African ancestry. The brown-skinned people
where lost civilizations reshaped the face of the earth into magnificent cities hundreds of years before Columbus
Yes.
vanished from history. When the settlers of the 16th and 1700s began pushing inland across North America, they came across many strange earthen structures. High cone-shaped mounds, long ridges, huge flat-topped pyramids dotted and rippled across the landscape. Inside these mounds, unusual pottery and ornate artifacts were often found next to human remains of an ancient people that vanished long ago. For over 2,000 years, ancient peoples left their marks throughout the eastern half of the country, referred to as the woodlands. Hundreds of sites containing thousands of earthworks were discovered. Looking at this undertaking in its entirety, it is clear that the labors of the North American mound builders were of such magnitude that these structures are one of the great accomplishments of early mankind. The first Europeans to explore North America came across huge earthworks, mounds which excited their curiosity and their greed for the treasures that might be found inside them. Early early excavations uncovered an extraordinary amount of beautifully crafted pottery and artifacts. Many showed sophisticated workmanship and were evidence of elaborate trading networks that brought goods from as far off as the Rocky Mountains and the Gulf of Mexico, a distance of more than 1,000 miles.
What
A
could they be
number of the
doing?
ancient graves that were excavated revealed elaborate burial practices. This all seemed far too exotic to be indigenous to the New World. Attempting to make sense of these baffling earthen structures, later visitors to North America refused to accept that they were the work of ancient Indians. To them, the finds were evidence that a more sophisticated culture had once thrived there. Not only did the current lifestyle of the Indians seem unrelated, but the Indians themselves seemed unaware of who had built the mounds. Anxious for a solution, Americans at the time came up with other explanations.
The earliest interpretations of the people who built the mountain was that they couldn't have been Native Americans. They had to have been constructed by someone coming in from somewhere else, whether they were lost Welsh tribe or lost children of Israel or Maya from South America or something like that. But in fact, they do appear to be, and there's no evidence to suggest that they're not purely indigenous. The people who were living here at the time constructed them.
Even the lost continent of Atlantis was included in these lost race theories. The ideas presented not only seemed exciting and magical, but were probably promoted to increase the value of the artifacts by those plundering the mounds for profit. These theories also gained support from the racist notion that Indians were not sufficiently civilized or ambitious to have been responsible for such feats. When these lost civilization explanations lost credibility, another rose to replace it. The mounds were natural geological features formed through unusual erosion. Believers pointed out that America was filled with other spectacular and unique natural landforms. The artifacts were often explained as coming from tribes that lived on these natural landforms at different times. Part of the problem, of course, was that the science of archaeology was in its infancy. Other tribes had indeed inhabited the sites both before and after the era of mound construction. But without modern dating techniques and a total understanding of population densities, the confusion is understandable. It is hard to believe how the largest ancient structures in North America could ever have been misinterpreted as geological forms, even though hundreds of years of weather and vegetation had obscured them.
Okay, so, yes please, thank you. When these mounds started being
My
discovered,
first year teaching, lesson planning was
when these mounds first started being discovered, they did not believe that the Native Americans had built them. Why? Why did it say? Zayden, what did they say?
Because I think they said because it had like grass over it and they didn't have like the type of material to build it.
Okay, so they didn't think that they had the means to do it. What else?
They didn't think they were sophisticated.
They didn't think they were sophisticated. And sophisticated is another word for saying what?
Advanced.
Advanced or smart. They didn't think that they were smart enough to do that. But we actually know that they were pretty advanced, right? I mean, even though we're just starting this unit, think about how Omakayas that we just read about in ELA. Think about how her family lived and how they found uses for everything. That's actually really intelligent, and maybe even more so than we are today, because what do we do today?
We just throw everything.
We waste, right? You know, we throw away things, and I'm very guilty of that, because especially when it comes to, say, washing dishes. You know what I do? I buy paper plates, and they were drinking out of different parts of animals, right? And
It's just bladders.
yeah, drinking out of the bison bladder, right?
What?
Yeah, remember when we read the first Americans book and they used the bladder as a jug for water. That's right. Okay, so while we were watching the video, I passed out one of these papers, and you have two of the same papers, so just know that you're supposed to have two of the same papers. Yes.
So, I think my papa have a mound in his backyard, and there's this hill that goes like up, then flat a little bit, then up again, and the whole thing just like flat.
Well, it's possible because, like we said, this was the area that some of them lived, right? But hills, there's hills in many different parts of the world. So how do we know whether or not if it's a hill or whether or not it's one of these mounds from this civilization?
Because sometimes they would, if they would find, they might have like richer soil. They have different soil because of like the dead body is not the bones that they were used as.
Oh, that's true.
And they might have,
Yeah,
and there might, and if you're like
yeah.
digging in it, you might find there might be like shiny, like sometimes that might be like a shoe, and there might be like some dead patches. And, like,
Yeah.
if they had like some bowls in there, and it might be like hard in some areas and then soft in others.
Yeah, at some point,
Then all the bones and stuff, the remains would fertilize the soil.
Well, this is a little gross, but really your body, your flesh, right? That is what fertilizes the soil. The bones are still there. So
that's how we get buried.
Hmm.
So
that's not how we get buried here.
So you're telling me?
But no, what I'm saying is your bones is not what decays, right? The rest of your body decays. The fleshy, squishy part is going to decay.
So you telling me?
When we start to find artifacts in these areas, say like at Poverty Point, they would start to find artifacts like maybe arrowheads or pieces of pottery, okay? And then they know that this area might need to be excavated. We might need to look for things, and then they begin to find bones because a lot of times the bones are still there. It takes the bones way longer. They might not be fully intact anymore after so many hundreds of years, but a lot of times they'll find bones or fossils of things.
I found like an arrowhead in my yard.
Yeah.
I found like 20 arrowheads before.
What you got?
So you told me I'm probably eating bones because my papa.
No. Okay. All right. Before we get too far off track, let's go ahead and do our activity. So you have two papers because we're going to do one together and then you are going to do one with your partner. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to take a little virtual field trip. Okay? So right now you are just watching, and then I will allow you to do it with your partner. I've posted this in your Google Classroom so everybody will be able to access it, okay? Alright, so let's see if I can. Alright, so these are some of our groups that were considered mound builders, okay? And these aren't necessarily the bigger ones that we are talking about that are in our book, but they were still mound builders. They were in the southeast. What we know today is this is the state of Georgia, right? So these were in this area. So we're only seeing these because this is from the state of Georgia who created this website. Of course, there were many other groups. All right. Yeah. I mean, that'd be cool if Louisiana would make one for the groups that were over here. So we're going to do a little artifact study. Remember we did this before with Charlemagne's coin? And we just do this just as practice because you're going to have questions whenever we get to leave that might just have a picture of something, right? And you have to be able to look at that picture and try to get as much information and think about what it might mean to answer questions, okay? So I'm going to click on this group right here. I believe you say this is the Akmochi peoples, okay? And you can click on each group and it gives you information about them for our purposes right now.
Google Maps to like see it.
No, it's a different website, but I have the link for you already. So this tells you where they're located at in Georgia. This was the Creek people. Okay, so this area was part of the Creek Confederacy. More than 2,000 people lived in the area. They lived by the Okmulgee River, which probably meant that they had that fertile soil, and they might be what? Farmers, right? So they had a trading post. They had 7 mounds at this location. Some of them were temple mounds, and temples are what?
Big old tombs.
Well, a temple is like what we consider today like a church, right? So that's where they would do those religious ceremonies. No, y'all are gonna do another one. They had a funeral mound, which would be the tomb, right? And they had an earth lodge. So you can click the arrows. You can visit different sites. After you complete your paper, then you can go explore all the different sections that you want. But I'm just going to give you an example. So I'm going to go to the Earth Lodge. Okay. Gives you a little bit of information if you click the down arrow. This is them excavating the Earth Lodge, building it up. And I'm just going to click on our artifact, and we're going to use this artifact for our artifact study. Okay. We're probably not going to be able to answer every question because sometimes we're working with limited information, right? They give us 1 sentence here. So when you and your partner are doing this, if you can't answer every single question, that's okay. Okay, but right now we're going to do this one together. We're going to answer all the questions that we can. Yes? Okay, so, alright, I'm gonna erase this really quick so that we can write about our artifact study.
Wouldn't it have like
Alright, so we have a ceremonial artifact right here. So a ceremony is one of those rituals that we talked about. And it says a large clay pot, which is the only artifact which was discovered at this location, suggests that council members, so the people who would kind of be considered like maybe their form of government, possibly they drank caffeinated tea made from holly leaves during their meetings, their council meetings, or their what we would consider government meetings, okay? Alright, so right off, we can answer our first few questions, okay? So, what type of object is it? A pot. Okay. Where is it from? What were the names of the people? Whatever. Well, it was part of the Creek people, right? And I will tell you, because I don't know if you can see it anymore, the Okmulgee people, right? Which is part of the Creek. That's fine. Let's just put Earth Lodge. Okay. When was it made? We don't know exactly when it was made, right? But I think it was before that. Let's see. If we look in our book, let's see if it gives us the approximate date.
280.
I actually don't see.
what size is the pot? I call it a use of like the beginning of the website and said like the feet for like size of your
900 AD. That's what I thought. Okay.
It's only like 980.
All right. Well, let's go with that,
Yeah, 900.
and we'll put a little question mark because we don't know exactly when it was created, but it's okay, right? We know about the time, right? And we know that this was before who arrived? Like 100 years before the Europeans. Alright, what color is it? Now I'm going to close out of the little note so that you can see it completely. What color is it?
Orange.
Brown, tan, orange.
Beige.
Beige is orange and okay. What shape is it? Round. With an opening, right? What size is it?
Medium.
It's kind of hard to tell, but I mean, big enough to drink out of.
1 foot.
All right, 1 to 2 feet. We can go with that.
We're just gonna put 1 to 2 feet question mark.
All right, and what is it made out of?
Clay.
Clay. Okay. All right, let's skip down to question number 9.
What about 8?
It's okay. This is just our example, so we're not going to answer all of them because I want to give you time.
And then write the answer to that one.
All right, so number 9 says, why was it made? What was the purpose of this? What did they use it for? Drinking. Yeah, and what did they drink? Tea. They drank caffeine, like your teacher. All right, so they drink tea made of holly leaves. At council meetings. We didn't answer number 8. We skipped around a little bit, and that's okay. I'm just trying to refresh you on how that we did this the first time, so that you and your partner can do your own on the next page. Okay, so before you go, I want to show you in your Chromebook. Eyes up here so you can hear the directions before you open your Chromebook. Eyes up here. I put this at the top of your Chromebook. It's not in a section, I put it at the top of our Google Classroom. It's not in any section, so it says Mound Builders Virtual Field Trip. If you click on it, I want us all doing the same thing. So when you click on it, you are going to go look at a different group. You're going to look at the Etowah group, okay? So you're going to click on that one first. Okay, you can read a little bit about them. And if you go down, eyes up here. I need you to remember where you're supposed to go before you get started. Once you click on Etowah, you're going to go to the plaza area. Okay? And when you look at the plaza area, you can see different things. And I will give you the option. You can either click on pottery or you can click on technology. Okay? So pottery or technology, those are the two that you were picking from. And no, you don't have to finish the first page. I was just trying to remind you guys of how to do it. Okay? So if you click on technology, you're going to click on gallery. Okay? Not video, gallery. And you're going to pick one thing that you want to do. Okay? Don't pick multiple. So if you want to do the arrowheads, you can do the arrowheads. Or if you want to do, what are these? Do you remember talking about these in the birchbark house? Yeah. Okay? So you're only picking one. You and your partner pick one, and you fill out the second page. Yes. Y'all all gonna do the same one anyway. Second page. So you want me to use and then click on the gallery and you do. Got it?
Now let's
Alright, I'm going to set our timer and we're going to take about 8 minutes. Okay? Has everyone found what they're going to be studying? something in the pottery section? Okay, there you go. And you may not be able to answer every question, because you may not have enough information, and that's okay. It's about finding all the information that we can. The date, yeah, that was a good thing, because I forgot to do that last time, that's right. Yes. It's an L. Yeah. And I think you say it at law school we looked it up and now I forgot, right? I think it's at Myers. Which one's a what? Just put they're all, you're just seeing different parts. So it's an extension arm which allows spears to be thrown at a higher rate of speed. So it's a weapon, right? To help you throw well, it's just part of a weapon. You don't know. You can just skip that one, or you can put what I put up there. You can just put that it was made before the Europeans arrived, right? Because what were the arrowheads for? They went on the end of what? Sticks to make a spear. Shipping, I guess. Shaping. Yeah, y'all can just, after you fill out all the questions that you can answer, then you can explore. And if you get to a question that you can't answer, it's okay. You might not have enough information on some of these things. Oh yeah, me. Yes. You could go whatever. You could just put it was before the Europeans, right? We know that it was these were, native tribes before the Europeans got here. So we might not know exact dates on every one of these things, and that's okay. Hold on to this.
How has they
Yes.
I would say it's probably about 4
Which one are you doing? Click on this and read it. Alice. 2 inches. About 2 inches. Page BEIGE. We're gonna use it in a minute. It is in Georgia. Well, it wasn't considered Georgia then because there were no states then, but we say it's Georgia now, right? Probably the three people. But then if you, I think that's what they did. I don't know specifically about we talk about these groups in our book. We just talk about like this little E right here. So either they have the E goes somewhere like up in here or in this area. Right? So they can increase or they could he's like well, you just kind of sum up what you learned. These were used for what? What were the arrowheads used for?
Usually used for trade items, but they were supposed to be used for like self-defense and
For what? Self-defense and hunting. Okay.
How did it change over time? We have guns now. Like we got children.
Oh, okay. You don't know that. You can skip it and go to the next one. Long. Thick leg.
just letting you know, you could put that up. It's got like
Alright, we have 5 seconds left, so we're gonna wrap it up. It's okay if you did not finish. Okay, so I want you to close your Chromebook. It is almost time for us to go to the bathroom. So before we go out, I gave you an orange sticky note. Okay? So I want you on your sticky note to write 2 facts that we have learned about the people of the Southeast today. Okay? Bonus points if you can think of a fact that has to do with the environment or geographical features of the people of the Southeast.
okay.
Alright, 2 facts. When you get done, you can hold it up in the air and I will come grab it and we will go get in line. The people of the Southeast. 2 facts about the people of the Southeast. Hold it in the air when you get done. You don't have to write your name on it. It's okay. All right, thank you. You can go get in line. All right, thank you. You can go get in line. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Once I take your sticky note, we can go get in line for the restroom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, go get in line.